co-founder of AlertMe, and Philippe, Brodeur, CEO and co-founder of Overcast HQ. So, for those who don't know, Valossa, our company, is doing artificial intelligence software for media companies. So, recognizes what is in the assets. So that's one step of using AI in engaging the audiences to understand what you have inside your content. The next step is, of course, to apply AI so that it can start engaging the audiences. That requires a lot of more techniques that are closer to the user. And this is what the panel is about today. And therefore, I think we should start by having a brief introduction of your company and how it's positioned in the media landscape markets. So let's start from the back. Adam.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Adam Shapiro, and I am the co-founder of AlertMe. AlertMe is a content discovery tool for publishers where they're able to put the AlertMe button on a page and let the readers, when they're in the midst of a story, digitally raise their hand to say, please keep me updated on this particular story, this very narrow theme. So it goes beyond what an RSS feed is or a general newsletter, but instead isn't all things about a topic, but rather just about the content, but a very specific piece of content. So if you are interested in the Red Sox and you don't need all Red Sox news, but you really want to know when Drew Pomerantz is going to come back from injury, you're able to follow stories just about Drew Pomerantz from the publisher that you're looking at. I was talking to somebody before who is from Flint, Michigan, and if the local paper there had stories about the water crisis, it's not front page news anymore. They might not learn every new development in it, but if they follow the story via AlertMe, they're able to get news as it happens from that source and only that particular publisher. It's a pleasure to be here. We've been looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Hi, Philippe Brodeur. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Overcast HQ. Overcast is a video asset management platform. We've been called the Google Docs of video. So what does that mean? We try and get everybody who's mainly non-technical into the video workflow. So there will be people in organizations, be they broadcasters, telecom operators, and new generation broadcasters like brands and agencies who are just not technical, like marketers and executives, and they want to be involved in the review and approval process, for example. And so we make it easy for them to manage the content. We introduced AI into a bunch of our as real products that our guys can use to search and discover their content.
And I'm Mike Avon. I'm founder and CEO of ICX Media. It's great to be here. ICX Media is a video intelligence platform for independent video creators, brands, and media and entertainment companies. And what we do is we help anybody who's telling a story, anybody who's creating a video or distributing a video, better understand what their audiences or their target audiences are watching at any given time, how to best engage those audiences, and how to reach those audiences best. We do that through great data science, but we also do that through a significant amount of machine learning and AI. We work with independent creators from brand name filmmakers, people like Ed Burns and other top tier filmmakers, to kids with cameras, to videographers on the side, to influencers. We work with brands large and small, and we're increasingly working with large media companies, entertainment companies, including studios and networks. It's great to be here. My second year here on the SPROCKIT panel, and thank you for having us.
Thank you. So let's dig deeper into the world of AI. So most of the practical AI applications today are about supervised machine learning. What it means in practice is that people tell computers what they should learn about data. And after that, computers either recognize or predict new phenomena out of unknown data, basically. That is the fundamental role of AI currently in practical applications. So how are you utilizing the latest progress in AI in your products, and what added value does AI bring to your customers?
Sure. You can start. I'll start. you won't ever really hear me talk about ICX Media as an AI company or a machine learning company. For us, AI and machine learning is a tool to help us solve the problem I just described, which is how to best find and engage audiences for anybody who's telling a story with video. And to that end, we very much look at a variety of different AI and machine learning tools as part of our workflow. For us, really, AI is about leveraging our data science capabilities. So we have a great data science team, but we're a company of 28 people. So our data science team is only a handful of people. As everybody probably knows, data scientists, incredibly expensive. The really interesting insights that our data science team can come up with, and then leverage AI to expand, to basically leverage that. Non-obvious correlations in large data sets to ultimately better understand that, you who might, be somebody who watches, baseball videos, Red Sox videos, and Game of Thrones, and, stupid cat videos. What does that tell us about you? And what else are you likely to enjoy watching? Not just, more content about the Red Sox, but, content maybe about the Yankees, maybe because you just so hate the Yankees that you're actually going to engage with that kind of content. So that's the type of analysis that we do. And I'm looking at Stephanie as I talk about the Yankees back there. Machine learning and AI. So for us, it's really it's an arrow in the quiver. It's a tool set. But without machine learning and without AI, we couldn't exist. We'd have to be a company of 100 people at this stage, and very quickly would become non-economical to do the kind of work that we do.
So, as a summary, you are kind of modeling the users based on their viewing behavior.
That's right. That's right.
Good. Thank you.
So I can pick up on that. We use AI for very specific products for our clients. So, for example, we work with the Daily Mail, and the Daily Mail is a publisher, and they create a lot of content as well. We make it easy for them to, like I said earlier, to move that content around from department to department within the Daily Mail and within their clients. So when they come to want to publish onto a variety of different social networks, they need to have subtitles or captions, and so we make that possible using AI products. We also do image recognition. Now, you have to understand that there's image detection and then there's image recognition. In fact, it exists for all types of AI products. Detection isn't really a big problem. The problem becomes when you start talking about recognition and making it relevant for your client. So even in the voice to text, text to subtitles, subtitles to captions, there's still an editing process that has to go in there because punctuation really isn't good enough yet. So we have to augment those tools that we give to our clients so that they can do the editing themselves. It speeds up the process, but it's not completely artificial intelligence at the moment.
So supervised learning is obviously, when it became truly productized, changed the game. With AlertMe, we recognized very quickly that we had to get into more multi-class classification because the key to following a relevant story is getting back truly relevant content in return. And when you're reading a story, reaction to the Russia probe, or reaction to dresses not being sold at Nordstrom anymore. The reality is, if you just got all Donald Trump stories based on keywords, your phone battery would go dead in about 5 minutes. So we have to make sure that we are on target for relevancy because that's what matters to people. If you're following a story about a seal at the local zoo that is sick, and you get an alert back from because seal just won a Grammy Award, it's an atrocious user experience, and the publisher will never talk to you again. If it's Tropical Storm Daniel is going up the East Coast, and you get news about Stormy Daniels, that's a very different experience. The key is relevancy, and that's why our engagement rates have been extremely high, because you have to be able to hit what's a very narrow target, and artificial intelligence allows you to do that.
I'll just pick up on that just quickly, because relevancy is absolutely key to what we're doing with AI. if you think search and you think Google search and you put a word in and you get back 1 million results, well, we all know that you only go to page 1 and page 2, so why are we getting 1 million results back? The same thing happens with AI when you're searching for an image. You need to get back relevant information. So what's interesting going forward will be perhaps being able to filter using AI and making that far more relevant in the future.
Good points there. So I would like to continue actually with Adam. So basically, how do you engage the audiences and retain them for your publishers?
Sure. Well, thank you. It's the biggest trick in all this is being able to provide value. And I think it's the same kind of value that Don Draper was talking about on Mad Men for advertising 50 years ago, is being able to deliver context. And so when people do sign up for a story with AlertMe, the usual publisher, the research I've seen has been that the usual publisher newsletter open rate is between 14 and 22%. And most publishers look at that and say, that'd be nice. The open rate for our emails is 68%. The average clicking of a link, and think about how often you get a newsletter and how often you click one of the links, or if you just browse it. The research showed that it was 4.7% of those links get clicked. And over the last 6 months, our links got clicked 58% of the time. And I know those numbers sound ludicrous, but it's because if you really think about it, it hits the spot of what you digitally raised your hand to ask for. And if you get a notification on something that really matters to you, and not just whatever the publisher thought you might be interested in, and frankly it goes out to everybody, if it really is specific to your needs, you will open it. And that's what we're finding.
So, out of interest, so basically people press AlertMe button, and then what happens? Is there machine learning that helps, for example, publishers to choose the follow-up content for that topic, or do they curate that manually, or how does it work?
Sure. The publishers have access to a dashboard where they're able to see what stories are people following, and beyond that, what stories do people respond to. So, for example, local news is a phenomenally valuable category for us because there's nothing more important than if there is a crime happening in your neighborhood and somebody is following it because there was a crime in your neighborhood and you want to know what happened. The open rates for those stories are often more than 100%. And I say more than because people share those stories. They share that link on social and they forward it to people. A story on, we work with KCRA Television, a Hearst TV station in Sacramento, and there are people who are following, Trump in North Korea. Those don't have the same open rates because they're not as urgent. So the key to all this is making sure that you can deliver those both for local content and also for narrow niche content. Being able to do that, you will get a phenomenal return on it.
Okay, thank you. So, question to Philippe. So you are Google Docs for video. So can you position yourself against, for let's say, deliver and distribution platforms like YouTube or Facebook Live? How do you differentiate on that?
Yeah, so I think the first differentiation is that we're B2B, we're not B2C. So what we're doing is we're condensing the workflow within the video production process. So that's the first thing. Who do we displace? So we would displace a lot of the free tools that companies are using at the moment. So to move content around, things like WeTransfer, Dropbox, even YouTube. And people can say, okay, you're Google Docs for video, or you could be an enterprise YouTube. However it is that you want to describe us, we're working in the B2B space and trying to, again, just narrow that time. And the biggest amount of time that we find people that struggle within the video creation or TV creation, programmed creation, is around review and approvals. You go out, you get a brief, you get a shoot, you get your first edit, and then there's this looping review and approval process that can take ages and ages and ages. We don't want to replace the experiential of going in and seeing that final product on a big screen in a post house. That's fine, but don't be going to the post house 20 times to look at rough cuts. That's crazy.
Thank you. So, Michael, your company acts as a kind of middleman for creators who seek an audience. So, how do you do that, and what makes you different from social media marketing agencies?
Yeah, so let me kind of start with the end of that question. We're very different than social media marketing agencies, primarily because we are a technology and product company first and foremost. So there are, and a lot of what we're displacing are some of these traditional agencies and very people-oriented models. They can create a lot of value, but the idea of building up a large team to curate content, to find audiences, predict the audiences that'll be interested in specific content, and then try to route that content to those audiences is incredibly inefficient and usually ineffective. There are kind of rules of thumb that people use that might have worked at one time, but in the fast moving video space and media space we're in today, quickly becomes obsolete. And so what we're doing is using very large data sets. We're looking at good data science and then machine learning to model out audiences, predict what audiences are likely to interact with specific videos at any given time, and also to match video creators to specific brands or distributors who need content. So we do all of that by scoring now about a million creators on the platform on a variety of different axes, finding and scoring audiences across social media, digital media, and other channels, and then working very closely with our media and entertainment as well as brand clients to model out their audiences and their competitive audiences to try to make a match. And so we're all about using large data sets, machine learning, data science to try to make those matches, to try to get the right content in front of the right people at the right time that they're most likely to want to engage with. Can't be 100% sure, but the difficulty of doing that is extremely difficult, but that's the big problem we're all trying to solve up here, I think, is to try to get content that people are interested in. What Adam's doing is great, and the engagement rates are spectacular there, and if you can get somebody to raise their hand and say, I'm really interested in this content, that's perfect. What we're trying to do is almost solve the opposite side of that problem, which is what happens when people aren't raising their hand? How do we get content in front of people when we don't have that first-party relationship, when they're not raising their hand and telling you exactly what kind of content they're interested in? How do we guess what they'll be interested in, get that content in front of them, and help the creators and distributors of content have a better chance of knowing and then growing their audience and ultimately making more money?
Thank you. Very good. Interesting point. So the next question actually is, what is the biggest business opportunity for AI technologies? Like, if you look at it's a tool, it's another tool, maybe replacing some of the typical feature development for software in the future. But what are the biggest kind of opportunities that the AI can actually solve in this next generation media toolsets?
I'm going to start here. I'm going to give you a short-term, long-term. I think in short-term, an incredible opportunity is broadly the idea of brand safety. So I think using AI to better understand, particularly as you get to longer tail content, what content is appropriate for a specific brand, what content is appropriate to advertise against. This is a huge problem in the industry right now. It's a huge problem for many of the people here. And I think AI machine learning can really help solve that problem without having to hire tens of thousands of people to review each piece of content. We're not there yet, but I think we're getting there, and I think some of the technologies you've come up with can help with that. I think longer term, using AI to just be much more precise in how we value a viewer's time, which is really the most precious element, most precious asset they have, and really the hardest problem to solve is to get that attention and time of the viewer, and to have the best chance. If I have one shot to get content in front of a viewer, what's my best chance to really engage them? And I think that's the long-term problem we're certainly trying to solve, and I think the industry as a whole is trying to solve that, and I think that's the multi-billion-dollar opportunity here.
Right. I had to add to that. When we trained the new sexuality models for our AI, it was kind of obvious to us that it's not so clear cut where the different layers of explicitness, for example, arise, and that's a big challenge for AI also, to understand how people perceive, for example, inappropriateness in the film content. So we are working our ways from sensuality to sexuality and then to kind of explicitness. And it seems that AI is able to grasp the basic concepts, but now the next step will be how to kind of infer out of that. Okay, next.
So I think the biggest short-term opportunity is reducing the cost of production significantly. So we talk about multi-platform delivery all the time, but what we don't talk about is multi-content delivery very often. What I mean by multi-content delivery is if you think you're a brand and you're, let's say, selling shoes, those shoes come in 15 different colors, and you want those shoes to all appear on ads, and all in different colors at different times of the day, perhaps, on different legs, different leg types, moving at different speeds. So how do you take one piece of content or one variety of pieces of content, say you've got 4 different colors, 4 sets of legs, 4 strides, and multiple different places you want to deliver that to, how do you create, using AI, a solution that can deliver all the permutations and then deliver it to your 10 or 15 platforms that you want to do, and do that all automated? That's where we're going with it, and that's where we think there's a huge opportunity in reducing the costs around simply an editor having to do that all the time, and actually just plugging the elements in and then pushing it out.
I think as AI gets stronger, it can do two very clear, strong things for broadcasters. Obviously, my perspective is a little different than the others, because we are dealing, with more pull from the audience than push. But the two things it can do: number one, if you start to recognize that your audience cares about certain topics, you start to do higher CPM performing content for those topics. Instead of a copy story, we work with Inc. magazine, for example, Inc.com. And if you're following stories about drones, there's the opportunity, if you've got 2,000 followers on that story, make it a video. You don't have to make it copy. Send out the podcast, because all of these pieces of content, the higher CPM performing, can be sent out because they are relevant, because somebody's asked you for it. But beyond that, the thing that I think affects all of us, and with Mark Zuckerberg on the Hill today, I think it's the right time to say it, is we need to reduce our dependency on Facebook, on social media channels. Right now, there is too much of a landlord-tenant relationship with Facebook and media publishers. And the more you learn about your audience through direct channels, whether it's AlertMe or any of the others, the more you learn about your audience through those channels, the better you're able to deliver what they care about, not from Facebook, but from you. You don't want to have to get lucky that somebody's going to find what you care about, and this is a way to do it. AI is a very key component to be able to make sure you can do that.
So one thing to add to that is I think it's a great point. We have a concept at ICX Media we call data-inspired storytelling, and it's this idea of using data as part of the creativity process. It's not to replace creativity, but it's using data to just be smarter in the content that you create. And I think it touches on the points that you both made. And I've been amazed that even when we talk now to the super high-end directors, producers, writers who I would have never guessed would have embraced this idea of data, they're now coming to us and saying, well, of course we need to be data informed. We need to understand what we're doing, and if I can tweak my content a little bit to have a better chance of engaging my target audience, I'd be stupid not to do that. I'm not going to let a machine tell me what to make. I'm still, this is still a creative process, but boy, I better understand what people are watching, and that should inform my creation if I'm going to be successful over the long term. And that's a sea change just in the 3 years that we've existed. When we started the company, we get a lot of blank stares and people saying, "Are you kidding me? I'm going to turn this over to a machine." Today, I don't think we have a conversation where people aren't asking for more data to at least inform, if not actually inspire their creativity.
Yeah, good points there. So let's have a very short round on what are you working on right now with respect to AI. So basically, what are you working on, and what are you going to accomplish within the next half a year or so regarding AI in your platform?
Start with me. Boy, we're working on a lot. I'd say the speed of change in the industry is accelerating, and I think what we're working on the most right now, it's a little bit of a boring answer, but it's really integrating a variety of the different services that are available now, from the services from large platform companies like Google and Amazon through AWS that we use, as well as open source solutions, and really trying to build out the right long-term solution for us. So, we found pretty early that there wasn't one AI solution, one AI service that was the right fit for all the things we need to do. And I think for us, it's very much an infrastructure question of how do we stitch together the right solution over the long term to give the best results to all of our different constituencies, from creator to media company to brand, and do that in an efficient way over the long term. I think there are a lot of companies that are going to probably be in the same boat, as I think you're finally starting to get some clarity on the roadmaps from some of these companies and some of these open source projects right now that, at least from my standpoint, wasn't there, a year or two ago. So for us, I think that's the key over the next 6 months to 12 months. And the results for our clients hopefully are invisible. If we're doing our jobs right, they'll have no idea that we went through that process, and it'll just be we'll be delivering better results. And if they're really interested, we can explain how we did that. But I think today probably the technology is a little too front and center, and we would like that technology to fade in the background and ultimately just deliver great results.
Great.
Yeah, I'll pick up on that. AI's got a great wow factor, and we love that, and we get great engagement from our clients on that. But what AI doesn't have is common sense, right? And so we need to apply our common sense to it. It's a very, it's business rules, and so we go out and we talk to our clients, and they say it's not working well enough on this kind of search, or it's not working well enough in terms of how we're editing that. So what really we want to do is hone those products to make them the absolute best that they are, like search for image recognition. We have to filter. You filter all the time for other searches, so we have to do that with AI as well. And we apply our good business common sense to it. We go out, we talk to our clients, we get that feedback loop working, and that's really where we're focused at the moment.
We're looking at some of the less traditional forms of content to be able to push out, because I think of things like live streams. Streaming is obviously a growing and monumental part of the business we're in. And the reality is there's a lot of streaming content out there, but it's hard to find, it's hard to know it exists. The people that you're trying to reach don't know it's there. So what we're looking to do is to see, okay, who are the folks who are interested in these topics, and how do we get them that publishers streaming content in real time so they can watch it and be able to see what they really care about. The more we can do streaming, the more we can deliver people podcasts. It's higher CPM performing content. That's the gold mine for the publishers. It's not the copy story. So let's make sure that we incorporate all of the different assets and get it to people who will really open it and people who will really care, because that's ultimately what you're trying to do as a broadcaster, is get your content to the folks who really want it and will open it and actually want to embrace you, because they'll become more loyal to your brand in this otherwise fragmented world.
Okay, that's a great point to finish the panel. So I think it's time to thank to our panelists here and thank for the audience for the great conversation.
Thank you.
Have a nice show.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
Let's get it.
Can I get a photo with Mika and the guys first? Great.